Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Caseware webinar, where today we're going to be looking at cloud importing and mapping. My name is Anthony Longstreet, or Tony Longstreet. I'm a senior educational media consultant. We are joined today by the fabulous James Wright, the educational media technician. Come and join us, James. Super. How are you doing? You all right? Good stuff. Can't hear you at the moment. It's a bit muted. So whilst you're working on unmuting yourself, I'll just go through and talk about a bit of housekeeping first, so everyone knows what we're doing. Now, hopefully you can see on the screen that we've got a question slide up. So feel free to use any of the functionality that you see today to raise your hand, have chats, obviously Q&A. There is going to be a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar where we'll go through any questions you've got. However, myself and James will try to answer the best we can any questions you may have during the webinar. Okay, a recording of this webinar is being made and we will make it available on the knowledge base. So if you find the content useful and you want to share with your colleagues, that's where you can go. And usually it's up relatively quickly, like the day or the day after. James, step in if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Super. We also make it available on our YouTube channel, don't we, James?
Yeah, we do. We're very close to 300 subscribers there, I believe. So get a couple more and we'll get it up to 300, hopefully.
Excellent. All right. Okay, that's the target for today. Then try and get our subscribers to the YouTube channel up to 300. James, good plug. Do you want to put the link in the chat for everyone so they can go on there and subscribe? All right. So the agenda, what we're covering today, what myself and James will be working through, we'll be looking at importing in different ways into the cloud environment. Okay, so we're going to Excel, Zero, and we're also going to look at other options we've got from getting data from your desktop application up into the cloud. Now, if for any reason you can't hear us today, or the sound cuts out, or you get any problems, use those chat facilities to let us know so we can go back and get you on track. And as I said, ask any questions as you go through. Right, hope you enjoyed the webinar. James is going to kick us off with the importing from Excel. Is that right?
Yeah, it will be from Excel first. The link in the chat that should be on there for the YouTube channel for everyone. Wonderful. I'll just grab control of the screen and let me know when you can see it there. Perfect. You're able to see the screen there, Tony?
That's just loaded up, buddy.
Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, for today we're going to start off by going through the cloud importing for just an Excel document like you normally would on the desktop environment. I'm just going to go ahead and show you the document that I will be using. So this is just James's Jewelry trial balance for this company that I've made up for myself here. It's pretty basic, just a description, current year, prior year to, no real dates in there as such, but it's just for illustration today. And then I've got my account numbers on the side there as well. I'm just going to close that down so that we can import it in just a second. And within the cloud, I have already started an engagement just here, James's Jewelry Audit. So I'm just going to click and open that one up there. Once it loads for us, perfect. Once it loads, it will most likely load into this documents screen where you see at the top tab there, it says documents. What you need to do next is select data on there. This will give you multiple options, and we will cover a few of these options in later in this webinar today. But for today, what we're going to be looking at to begin with, is the Excel or CSV importing. So just go ahead and after you selected data, hit Excel or CSV. Now you can drag and drop the document directly into here, but for today, what we're going to do is click and browse file. And luckily, I've already got it open here, so I'm just going to go ahead and click trial balance. JJ for James's Jewelry, and then that will load in here. So you might recognize this screen if you have used the desktop version before, and this is kind of your TV importing screen, and this is where we'll go through and filter out what we do and don't want from a TV. So you don't actually have to import a completely clean TV with just the figures in the rows. You can leave the titles in and everything like that. So if you got it like that from the client, there's no issue with that. There is a slight difference between this and the desktop version, being that on the desktop version, you would click the boxes to select that you don't want to include that row. In the cloud, you would actually select to include the row. But we're not going to mess around with that. We want to save time. do the TB as quickly as possible. So what you actually find is if you start by going through the definitions across the columns, you'll notice that it will start automatically selecting the rows that we need, and we can go through afterwards and just double check that they're the correct rows for us. So we're going to start off with this top drop down. This is going to be our account number column. This second one's going to be our account name column. And then I believe as soon as we select the current year here, for the current year column, you'll notice that these select blue. And if I scroll right down to the bottom, we don't have any missing spaces at the bottom, but if it were the case, it wouldn't include those. And then you can continue along, pop the prior year in, and obviously if you split them out into credit and debit, there are the options there as well. And prior year too, because we want to give them the most information. Wonderful. If I scroll down as well, you'll notice we have this include zero balances button as well. So if you want to include your zero balances, you can click that. I will select that for today just in case. And then all you need to do is select import. So you can see how that saved us a load of time instead of having to go through and select each of the rows ourselves. We've just gone through and done the definitions, and it's automatically populated for us. I would recommend just double checking that everything's correct before continuing. But if there is an issue with the TB, we will cover how to re-import it in just a second after this.
Brilliant, James. That looks, again, it's nice and quick and easy. We have had a quick question just regarding if there are any differences between uploading Excel or a CSV trial balance. And just to answer, I know James has worked with an Excel trial balance today, but the CSV upload works in exactly the same fashion. So there won't be any differences when you get here.
All the same, really. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and select import to bring this in here. Perfect. And so it's now imported. Oh, sorry, dropping a pad there. It's now imported all of our figures for us. And these are currently unassigned. But within this area, what you might want to do while looking at the trial balance, you can actually customize the view that we see here. So you can use this columns drop down and make sure you select, say, previous. If I want to see prior year two's figures, I can select previous there, and you'll notice they get populated and shown on screen over here. You can go through in your own time and drag and drop these into various different orders if you want to, and also go through the filters and the indicators there. But for today, we're just going to leave that for the second and continue on to the kind of editing side of things. So you may have noticed that for each row, we have editing pencil at the end of it. This will allow us, for example, if we have this bank account number 1, and I know that this is actually a Barclays bank account or something like that, and I want to keep track of it. It's a bit simpler to name it after the bank. Then I can click the edit account button here. This will allow me to go in and just change some of the properties there. So I can just pop in Barclays Bank on there and then select save for that. Perfect. Now we've got something that's a bit easier to read. And when it comes to assigning the mapping later, it will be a lot easier to keep track of as well. Just before we go through the kind of assign mapping side of things, what I'm going to do is just pass the controls over to Tony just to go through the importing of zero, and then we'll come back and we'll go through the assigning of the map codes that we have here.
Super. Excellent. James, before we do scoot off quickly, just want to go back to that filters quickly. We had a question regarding setting balances for materiality. So I just wanted to just quickly show it up on the screen. When you are on filters, you can set the balances from a point to a point. So if you want to look at material areas, say within your audit pack, then from your account section here, you could just type in, say, any a nominal account that's above a balance for materiality. Okay, you've also got a material option checkbox down the bottom left, which if you've already set materiality in your cloud audit file, will just show you the material balances. But you can hone that in a little bit more as well if you wanted to. Thank you very much, James. Right, so let's go on to the zero side. Now, the good news with the linking to say zero or another platform is that it's actually even quicker than what you just saw there with James. So let me just go through and share my screen, and let's make sure I can get this working again. There we go. Hopefully you can see my desktop now. Thanks, James. All right, so let's open up case for working papers. Well, I've actually already got case for working papers open and the file open, so we'll just double click and open that up. All right, so There we go. And what I'm going to do as well, just open up a cloud instance. There we go. I'm now all ready. So for my side here, when we go through and we're creating files, very much the same way as we saw there with James, we go down to a template, we'd go through and create a new file. So this file is going to be to represent our zero import. So what we'll do, we'll select the new button. And I was just going to call it, for example, for the time being, A123 and the year end of, we'll say December 2021. And then at that point, we're just going to say save there. There were some other options on the screen there, which really look at workflows and assigning to partners and so on. If anyone wants any information on the rest of the options there you saw, then drop myself or James a message and we'll make something available with the Q&A document at the end of the webinar. Now, when you're working and you're not imported from yourself, you still need to go to the data tab, like James showed you. And then we're going to use one of these additional options. So we've got caseware working papers, desktop accounting software, or structured file. So that's the option we want to go for. So just in case that was a little bit quick, we want to select the accounting software or structured file, and that will open you up a new tab. Now, currently, we've got two options available. So we've got Xero, QuickBooks Online. There are a couple of platforms at the moment that are currently sitting with our QA team and our development team to provide you additional routines or links to other softwares. If there's anything on there specific that you and your firm would really want or really would need to save time, then drop in the chat field and let us know, and we'll pass it on to developers for you so they're aware that there's a need there. Now, for today's session, I'm just going to look at linking to Xero. Now, once you set this up, press next, and then it'll go through to connect to your account. So at this stage, then what it's going to want to do is authenticate with Xero. It's going to ask me to log in. And this is where I'm sure I'm going to ask for some two-factor authentication. And there we go. Okay. And allow access. There we go. So that's Crest Furniture. So our fake fictitious data set today is called Crest Furniture. And it will allow you to go through and say, okay, we want to link it to the organization. What period do you want to work on? So it's a little bit out of date, isn't it? So we'll pretend that says 31st December 2021, but for today's webinar anyway. Underneath this, we've got options to import a trial balance. We can also import all prior trial balance data up to 5 years. So as default, it's only going to import the current year values. However, we can import the prior 4 years as well if we need to. And if we really wanted to, how brave we are, we can import transactions. All depends what we're working on, doesn't it? So maybe when we're working with accounts in the cloud, those transactional imports will be really handy to get the most value out of our lead sheets. Or perhaps maybe with an audit, they're not required because you don't want to have all the transactions on the file. So you've got control of that anyway through the portal, as you can see. So select import, and then it's going to confirm what we're doing. Okay, we're going to import the trial balance from Xero, ready to go. So we just confirm and press import. There is going to be a bit of loading. See, the more transactions, the longer it's going to take. As this is a very small data set, it doesn't take very long at all, does it? Now, this screen does update. Okay, so what it will allow me to do from this screen at some point in the future is actually re-import from Xero as well. So if there's additional transactions that maybe the client's missed, we can always re-import later. However, if I go back to the file now, what we should see if I go to accounts, that they've got all the same accounts in there that, or maybe not the same accounts that you saw there from James's, but we've got the full normals in there, and we can start running that same assigned accounts that James was just related to or mentioned earlier. Okay, now, so on this one here, before we do go on and look at the assigning accounts, I just want to go back to the data quickly and just do the import option. Now, next time, if you were to reopen this import option and went back to accounting software, it just takes you straight through to this final screen that you saw a moment ago, okay, where it gives us the option to re-import. And you can do this as many times as you want just by following the prompts and re-importing that data into your caseware file. Okay. All right, James. James, would you be able to show the re-import option for Excel as well?
Yeah, of course.
Super. Let me stop sharing my screen then, and there we go. We'll go back into James's. And then I think, James, if you show the re-import option, that'd be brilliant. And also, if you can then go through and start showing everyone how to start mapping their accounts.
Perfect. Wonderful. I take it you can hear me and see me. And it's all good, yeah? Wonderful. Okay, yeah, so just jumping back into, say if you were given new information or you'd imported the complete wrong trial balance into the wrong engagement, no need to worry, we can just do a re-import, as Tony says. It's the exact same process of going back through data here. So if we select, click data again, click import on the side menu if you're already in accounts, import on the side menu, and then you'll notice that the options here have actually changed. So we've got three options. We've got a re-import trial balance, so if you want to completely re-import the same one, again. Then you've got the second option, which is to re-import from a different source. So that would be an example of where you picked up the wrong trial balance completely and you wanted to pull it in fresh, a new and in fresh from, say, a different company. And then you've got the option to import transactions as a CSV. So obviously you can add the transactions on later if they change. You can set the file up at the start of the year and then add the transactions on when you come around to do the filing, for example. So they're the options for kind of like a re-import or additional imports on top of the existing trial balance. We'll now move on to the assigning accounts, I believe. So we're just going to take a look at that. So just still under the data tab there, you'll notice we've got this menu to the side. You've got this button that says assign accounts. I'm not going to click on that one because you would actually come through to this accounting screen. Here's accounts one for the trial balance. And then you'll notice that up in the top right here, we've got this little link. This specifies that there are 60, and we don't know what 60 is of, but we know that it's actually unassigned accounts. So you'll see that number go down the more and more you assign account numbers. And if you see a number there and you're not expecting one, then you know you've obviously got something unassigned that needs addressing. So we'll go ahead and select that. You'll notice it will take us onto this assigned accounts menu. So within assigned accounts, we've got a couple of areas. We've got the unassigned column all down the side, the 60 codes that we've got. We've got the selected accounts area, and we've got the actual the mapping area as well. In addition to that, we've got the suggested area. So this is the little text area which will suggest to us map codes that we can use, and you'll see that populate in just a second, and it will generate those based on the actual name given to the nominal code as well. So it's kind of important with the name that you use. One thing to bear in mind, this selected area, selected account, area acts as kind of like a little stop off. So you can collect a couple of nominals together, and then you can assign them all together to the same account map number, So I'll show you that in just a second, but what we'll do first is just assign one code at a time. So what you'll do is, for this one, we'll use the stock raw materials. If I just click on stock raw materials, you'll notice it moves across into that kind of holding area, the selected accounts. And you'll notice that the suggestions actually populate here as well. So we've got this raw materials amount. And what I can do is click assign, but say if neither of these were what I was looking for a map code, I could actually just use the search menu. So if I just put stock, and then I can find my raw materials amount there as well. What you may find is if you're collecting quite a few figures all together, the suggestions box gets narrower and narrower with its suggestions, just because it's a bit harder to say suggest for 10 different codes. So you may have to use the search box there, and you can scroll up and down on there as well, very similar to the desktop. So yeah, all we need to do is just hit assign on there. The amount will disappear from selected accounts and then appear within this figure here. Another way of doing this as well, instead of clicking, if you're more of like a visual learner, I suppose it would be, you can actually just drag and drop exactly the same as the desktop as well. So in fact, I can drag this raw materials right back to unassigned, let go, and it appears there for me, and I can drag it and pop it straight back in as well. So it will appear there. What we're going to do is I'm just going to put these two bank codes in the same mapping. So what I can do is just find bank accounts. There we go. Cash bank in hand, overdraft loans. Let's try bank accounts one. Oh, we'll just pop it in this bank account there. This is just for example of using the selected accounts to add multiple figures into the same map code. So what I can do is select once and select again for this bank deposit amount. And it's actually giving me a good example there of a current asset that we can map to. So we can actually map to that, in fact. So if we use the suggested area, hit assign, it will then automatically map both of those figures. And of course, you can map more than 2 figures there, but it just gives you the reach of exactly what the selected accounts area can do for you.
Sorry, James. On that side, you said a minute ago you can drag it back from one side to the other, and it gives that green highlight. You can drag it. Can you drag it in between as well?
You mean into the selected accounts?
So from one map number to another
from
map number.
one to the other, yeah, of course. You can just drag and you'll see this blue highlight, let go, and then it will appear under cache balances. So yeah, like you say, you can manipulate and update just within the mapping area as well. You don't have to re-reverse the whole step process there. That's a good question. Very nice. What you may have also noticed is that we've got this color system, color coding on the left here unassigned. What it just refers to is if it's a positive or a negative figure. Obviously, yeah, you can read it on screen yourself, but it just makes it a bit faster. And if you're looking at something, say stocks, we would know that stocks is an asset, so we would presume that would be blue. And if we see a stocks figure under a red color, then we know that something's gone wrong there. It's a quick alert to us, so we don't go through all our accounting and then try and find an area where we've got a big rounding issue later on, so it stops you from doing that.
Yeah, because you can see the blue line on the right hand side underneath the groups as well, can't you? Just see where yeah. That's really good.
Wonderful. Yeah, so that's kind of everything for the importing. One last note as well with this is there are actually fewer map numbers available on the cloud platform at the moment, so just bear that in mind. If you're coming from the desktop environment, you may need to find some other map codes on there, but we can address that later on. And of course, we are obviously developing the software as we go, so we will be increasing the size of that. Now just to pass back over to Tony to go through the rest. There you go.
Super, thank you very much. Right, if anyone's got any questions for James as well about this signing mapping there, feel free to send them over in the chat field. James will be more than happy to go through and answer them. Let me go through and get my screen shared going as well. Right, so 22 minutes past, you should be enough in 3 or 4 minutes, just quickly going through the CloudBridge option. So for anyone who hasn't heard of CloudBridge before, what CloudBridge is a utility that Caseware put together to enable you to migrate data from your desktop applications, so Caseware working papers, up to the cloud. Lots of clients at the moment are working with Caseware Cloud within a hybrid approach. So they're using, say, Caseware Desktop for the accounts, and they're preparing the audits within the cloud. So to get the files in the cloud set up quite quick and easy, to get that trial balance data up there, plus a load of other bits and pieces that we're allowed, then what we can do is use CloudBridge. And if I stop waffling and share my screen, you'll be able to see it again. All right, so what I've done is you've got this file open, and you can see that the standard audit update message if you're an Audit Advanced user. So you'll be able to see that an update from the template. So this is one of the advantages moved to cloud audit products. You won't have that update procedure every year. Now, what I've done just to get us going is I've created a new file. Okay, so this is a brand new file and it hasn't got any data in it. Okay, so what I want to do is just upload data to this file, get that trial balance in there nice and quick and easy. So what you do is you actually start off from your desktop file. Okay, so you go back to your desktop file and what you'll need to do is you'll need to run some installation setup. We'll provide the link to the documentation that backs this up after within the Q&A document, but there's a couple of downloads, and one of those downloads would install a new document library called CloudBridge. If you're not familiar with document libraries, you access them from document and then from library, and then from there you can then access this window and drag over the CloudBridge tool. The CloudBridge tool is an HTML document. Okay, so what it will do is once you load it into your file, it will allow us to double click on it and open it up within Caseware, within the environment. So one of the things we need to be able to do is make sure that our desktop application is signed into the cloud. If you don't know what that means, then what you'd want to do is go to options, tools, options, Caseware Cloud, and you'll be able to see if you're signing to a server. So you can see here that I'm already signed into the Caseware training server. So that's the first step. Okay, then open up the CloudBridge tool. That will open up this HTML screen. What it will do initially, if you've already set this up previously within the engagement properties, so if I've already linked it to a file here, so ABCAL, then what it will do is it will automatically suggest that we upload using CloudBridge to this entity. But because I haven't done that, it's going to allow me to go through and manually select it, which isn't too arduous, is it? You can see on the screen, so it's not going to take me a lot of time if I haven't done that setup. Then it's going to ask you if you've already got the engagement set up, yes or no. If no, it's going to tell you to go to the cloud and set it up. If yes, then what it will do is it'll allow you to select that file. Now, what it does very conveniently for demonstration purposes is it knows exactly what the last file that was created in the cloud by you. Okay, so at this stage, then it knows that, okay, I created CloudBridge. I want to probably link it to this, but again, that may not be the right one. And I could link it to the entity that you saw me create earlier if I wanted to, or I could search. Now, at that point, I've got options to export trial balance data, export adjusting journal entries, and also if I wanted to, I could export the whole general ledger up into the cloud if we've got that within our desktop file. Okay. Now, there's future enhancements coming with CloudBridge that will allow you not only just to transfer your TB, the adjustments, and your full audit trail, but you also be able to push up documentation. So you would have spent a lot of time setting up files potentially in the prior year. You can have all your Word, Excel documents, all part of that pack. And what it will allow you to do in the next release is to actually push those documents up to the cloud as well, which will be fantastic. All right, for the time being, though, I was going to do the export trial balance data, and I'm going to export all the data. So current year, and prior year 2. Now I could tick the prior year 3 and prior year 4. I'm not sure if I've actually got it in the file. No, I don't have it in the file. So it's not going to be very good for me. Now, if I go back into the CloudBridge tab, there we go. So I don't really need to import those two. I can then just go down to my use map file. Now, the bit there James was referring to is that we've actually got separate mapping from the desktop and the cloud. However, what we've got is a little conversion file that will allow the desktop to speak to the cloud and the cloud to understand what the desktop mapping is. So you can access that by going to your Caseware program files. And from there, it's in one of these. And I normally get it wrong. Oh, there we go, 50-50, I suppose. And there's my CloudBridge one option up here. And here's my 2 mapping files. There's a mapping file for corporates, standard corporates, and there's a mapping file for charities and academies. So make sure you select the right one. And then once you do that, you just go to, I'm not going to export adjustments yet. I'm just going to transfer TB data. And what that's going to do is open up a tab. And the reason it opened up a tab is because I had that checkbox ticked down over here. And as you can see, then once I'm back in there, what we should see is the TBs in. Now, the difference between CloudBridge and what we demonstrated within Xero and what James demonstrated within Excel is that you can see I've only got 2 accounts to assign. Because CloudBridge has actually done most of the work for me and assigned most of it. However, it's going back to James's point that the mapping isn't exactly the same from desktop to cloud. So there's a few areas that potentially may not be mapped or may need us to manually intervene. Okay, so trade investments used to be A0104. Well, that's not there anymore. So at this point, then what we need to do is select the next option available. So maybe other fixed asset investments. Okay, and then select one which is okay, other fixed asset investments. And then there we go. All right, and then profit and loss. Hopefully we should have something there. There's share probably, but again, hopefully you get the idea. All right, so that is all I wanted to show on the CloudBridge side. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of food for thought, and for the people who are using it, nice and clear on how you can use it yourselves. What I'm going to do quickly is going to load back up. I shouldn't close my screen off there, should I, James? I should have just got the other slides up ready to go. So bear with me. It seems like I've closed those down accidentally. Whilst I'm trying to load the slides back up, James, have we got any questions that have come in?
No, we haven't had any come in. Yeah, no more have come in, but we will be using we'll pop together a Q&A document for the questions that were asked earlier, alongside the recording as well. So you can find that on the KB, as well as directly on the YouTube channel as well. That goes for any of the quick vids as well that we populate on the KB. So if there's a quick vid for it on the KB, it will also be found on the YouTube channel. Another promotion for the YouTube channel, I suppose, is we've got playlists on there. So if you're looking for all the videos available for a particular product, say template, function, feature, or in fact webinar, you can find it under the playlist on the YouTube channel. So it's a nice little sorting exercise there for you if you want to learn everything available in video format. Wonderful.
Super. Thank you very much. Good amount of filler there. And also I'll be looking forward to seeing some of you signed up and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Here are some of the upcoming webinars that we've got live, and again, anyone can go through to caseware.co.uk/events and sign up for these. We've also, as you'll see on the screen here, you'll see the other options we've got. So there's our events page, for example, where you can go to. Next slide will be our YouTube channel. That's what James was just referring to there. So feel free to go on there. There's lots of content on there. We're constantly updating it for webinars, getting started guides and so on. It's a really good place for new users. It's only showing 280 subscribers there. So I know it was at 290 the other day. So it's rapidly growing. Hopefully you guys will take advantage of it and get benefit from that easy access to training material. Again, everything's saved and stored on the knowledge base, and again, you can access and watch any webinars from there as well. See the difference between that and YouTube is that you don't need to sign in, so that's quite handy. All right, so that's all I've got to go through today. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed the presentation. We haven't had any additional questions in, so if there are any questions, maybe the last attempt just to quickly fire those across. If not, thank you very much for attending and your attention throughout the webinar, and hope to see you on a webinar shortly. Okay, I don't think there's any questions coming, is it, James?
No, we're all good.
All right, if anything does come in,
we've just got one. Wonderful. Okay, can you still map accounts codes via Excel?
It's a good question, Mark. No, you can't map codes from Excel. When you look in the cloud, the structure is slightly different, so it doesn't have the full extensions available. So when you used to have it, so you'd have the column, didn't you, within the Excel, and you'd import it into desktop, and it'd pick up on the mapping because you could select it from the import options. That's not available within the cloud. It's been requested, and I think it's one of the areas that potentially they may develop in the future, but at the moment there's no plans to.
Everything, unless anyone else wants to get a quick question in. 3, 2, 1. No, nothing. Alrighty then. Perfect. So yeah, that's everything for today. See you guys in the next one.
Take care. Good work, John. Thank you very much, guys. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye bye.